Hi, it's Xanthe here. I have got a fan in the background if you hear a washing noise to try and block some background noise. I'm going to put a little bit of makeup on. Lighting situation, I've got in this corner neutral cool. So looking at this, it should be basically titanium white around the edge there. Black, I know what some of these colours are from my paints. That's warm, neutral, that's neutral, neutral, and that's cool, neutral. So daylight is usually more leaning cool, unless you're in the sunset or sunrise. But it does go through phases of neutral depending on where you are, etc. So anyway, let's just put a little bit of makeup on. So trying to get accurate colours is very difficult with filming, photography, or whatever. So my camera tends to do reasonable job. My phone camera not so much. Tends to pull very cyan, so very kind of cool. I don't really like wearing foundation very much, mainly because of my sensitive skin, but I have a few foundations here. This one is a little bit peachy on me. It's called Nude Beige, Maybelline one. This one is 3.5N Neutral by L'Oreal True Match, which is probably just a tad light. That one generally is better, though I can adjust them with colour correctors or whatever if I did want to wear them, and if I apply them very lightly with a brush, let my natural skin colour show through. What I tend to do though is just use a tiny bit of concealer. I own two concealers. This one is Revlon Illuminance Light Medium, which is a little bit light on me, slightly peachier. So I'll just show you. So you get a good, I find that reasonable idea in the back of my hand whether it kind of goes or not, or whether it's way off. And then I've also got this one, L'Oreal 4N Light Medium, True Match. So this one is slightly peachy, this one's slightly yellow. I do often look yellow under many different conditions, but I don't want to really exaggerate that. So what I tend to do is I probably go more for the peachy one and even peach it a little bit more with its deep peach for any dark under circles. This is a colour corrector, just because the kind of orange tones helps neutralise blue tones. So even though I have quite a bit of more of a kind of olivey complexion, as long as I don't put it all over my face, but just kind of use it just in certain areas. And then if I had any redness that I want to tone down, I'd probably go more for this one that's sort of closer to my skin tone, and then just use a touch of this green, cool green colour corrector. Wouldn't use that directly on my face because it's too strong, but you know, say if there's a little bit of redness that I just wanted to tone down a bit. So I usually end up using slightly peachier, but then just directly over the brownest patches. So I have quite a bit of hyperpigmentation in my face, which is not on the parts of my body that haven't seen the sun as much. Don't have that, so it looks kind of just makes my face look a bit kind of dirty, because it's just like these uneven patches. It's kind of a little bit different from freckling. So it was worse than pregnancy and on the contraceptive pill. We across here, across there. It's kind of as I try to avoid excess sun because I've got a skin cancer surgery there. But I did have a lot of sun exposure when I was younger. It was just like, you know, everyone was just outdoors a lot, and that was sort of my family's lifestyle as well. So to where it's a little bit redder around there, for example, I could use a tiny bit of the green mixed in the more yellowy one. Just put a tiny bit in, don't need much. And I find that when I look at myself on the video and the photos, I prefer myself without foundation in general. It's not going to, obviously, just doing this take, you know, make your skin look flawless, but I find that I just prefer, and I'll just go wipe that up and go back to the warmer one for other bits. I just find that it's more of a more natural look, still look like me. So dark shadows of the eyes tend to go for more the peachy one, and I'm only putting the tiniest amount on. When it's on, it actually looks invisible, and that's what I prefer. So with my sensitive skin, it's prone to irritation, dermatitis, etc. One of the reasons why foundation can be really annoying for me is to remove it needs extra cleansing, and that cleansing I feel afterwards very tight, and then can actually have redness, you know, just really irritating. So I couldn't be one of those people swatching a million foundations and taking it off, putting another one on, because my skin would not survive. I'm feeling a little bit warm at the moment, so what you're seeing, if you see on this camera at the moment, this is what my natural blush kind of looks like. It's very subtle, it's not bright pink. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about this area here because it is prone to dermatitis, but sometimes I get a patch of redness I could easily use. Show you a bit closer. So the one that I've made more green, or more olive, and then the one that's more peach. So use them both just to kind of balance things out a bit. Now, nothing major, it's just very subtle. Just going to wipe that off. Now, just to set that, I can use a little bit of powder. The only finishing powder I have is this one Revlon. It's a banana one, but I only just use a tiny bit. We're not adding too much yellow to my face. But I find the tint better than to use just a white translucent powder, because the white just sits in the face. I might turn the fan around. I've got the fan going to block noise, but then with the window closed it's sort of feeling quite humid. So we're in the autumn time. So we're in the autumn time at the moment, so that's why the weather's it's fine, but it's sort of a little bit cool, so wearing just an extra layer. Just when I mentioned this particular cardigan has been really useful. The colour was called Sand. It's neutral, but you know, compared to this, it's not anywhere near white, and it's like a little bit kind of a little bit grey, but a hint of yellow, just very subtle. But I'm wearing it with this colour here, which is closest to ultramarine blue, but also wear it with this this dress here, which is like a dark red, brown and black, and this dress here, which is red. So red is my most complemented colour. My theory is that the red here just reflects a bit of red, which isn't really that apparent in my complexion usually. I'm just going to apply a little bit of powder just to sort of, especially with the shiny areas. So this one is a Nude by Nature N4 medium. It says natural mineral cover, loose powder foundation. It's called a foundation, but it's nowhere near as you know, kind of, when I wear these, sometimes I feel like sort of suffocating my skin. So this one here, I probably wouldn't use it too much on my cheek area because my cheeks, I've got combination skin with drier cheeks. So just a little bit, mainly on the T-zone, so like a T. I've always had combination skin, but I've known I've had sensitive skin, well, since my 20s, so I'm in my 50s. So I haven't completely taken away the under eye vertical area, but just kind of toned it down a little bit. So in any residue, let's just put it on just very lightly. Now I find the biggest difference to my complexion is to add a little bit of a colour, because I'm very muted in my complexion. It's sort of like the mixture, and I think it's just a mixture of my parents having quite opposite kind of colouring. So Dad had, when he was a young adult, blonde hair, blue eyes, and lighter skin that went very golden, whereas that looked very golden, whereas Mum with black hair, brown eyes, brown skin. So we've got the Dutch and Māori, so the European Polynesian mixture, and you've ended up with me. So I've got hazel eyes, it's neutral chocolate hair, that's what my hairdresser calls my hair, and olive complexion, which is considered to be warm leaning neutral according to colour analysis, which I take with a grain of salt because of the inconsistencies and whatever. So generally though, with makeup, I find that the products labelled neutral tend to be a closer match. The ones labelled warm tend to be way too orange. The ones labelled cool are all way too pink generally. And I can always neutralise them, with a little bit of blue or some of this cool green, just to tweak something if it's nearby in value, so something's not too dark, not too light. Okay, so let's put a little bit of colour on, just in case we run out of video time. Let's have a look at perhaps blush. So I usually generally suit deeper, slightly muted colours, so type deep autumn, but this is kind of slightly bright for me, and this blush here I thought was going to be really bright on me, but it's not too bad. It's called Coral Illusion by Maybelline. It's just one of the Cloudtopias. So just put a little bit of that on. It's quite a nice formulation. So it's a mousse. So I own 2 of this type of blush. So there's this one, and then I've also got I'll put the other one on, then we'll try and mix them together so we can match. This one is the Dreamy Dawn, so it's kind of muted. This one is a little bit brighter, this one's a bit warmer. This one's a little bit kind of pinker, but still a bit muted. So we're going to do it in different cheeks just to show you the difference. I generally, even though I'm supposed to be leaning warm, I can prefer slightly blushes that look a little bit cooler, but these are both still warm compared to some of the other colours. So so that's by itself. It's a subtle difference. Probably tone it down a little bit by blending it a bit more. It really comes down to preference, I think, but I'm going to blend them together, so I'm going to put a little bit of this one, and here's that one. I'm going to swap them and see if I can make them match a little bit, but I'm probably going to go a little bit overboard. I'm just going to blend it, and then we're just going to put a little bit of that other pink. I asked a couple of the cosmetic sales assistants which one they preferred, and I swatched them on my hand. They both voted for this one, and also when I did a little short video, people voted for this one. So anyway, I could always tone that down with a little bit of powder if I wanted to, or mix it with a slightly more muted blush, but let's just let it calm down, because it's obviously touching my skin. it sometimes makes it go a little bit redder as well. But the colours look kind of bright in the pot, but they do go on softer, but they're still kind of bright for me. So compared to, say, you know, some of my favourite blush, this one here for example, it's kind of in a similar family. So this one's Dusty Rose, it's pretty much a rose, this one. So the coral one, I was a little bit like, oh, I don't know, corals tend to often go really too bright on me. So anyway, let's just add a bit of lipstick, see if we can balance it out a bit. So two that I pulled out that might be options are, this one's Very Rich, so these are Revlons, and this one is Teak Rose. And bearing in mind, I want to kind of, you know, go with this cardigan as well. So, let's see, could go with either, or we can mix them together again. Why don't we try the Teak Rose to start with? Yeah, I bought this this cardigan in the springtime. I've used it so much. I got a compliment from an elderly lady who said she liked my cardigan, so I must have elderly lady style. So it's still kind of muted, but it's like, when I say muted for me, I don't mean extremely greyed. One of the problems I see with colour analysis is they tend to call muted extremely greyed. There's no in between, you know, sort of people who don't generally go for the boldest options. I'm just going to put a little bit of powder just around the edges, just to tone that down a wee bit. Okay, so look at eyeshadow. So yeah, so the bare minimum for me would be blush, lipstick. I'll show you what that looks like by itself, and then we're just going to put a little bit of eyeshadow on. I've pulled out just a couple of options. So I usually put down as a base just a little bit of this one here. Whoops. Usually just put a little bit of this one here, which is the Praline by Revlon, which is just a cream eyeshadow. I just find that it just makes everything go on a bit smoother. And then we're just going to use, I thought we'd just maybe use the browns. This is my most used palette, which is Brixton Brown Scandalise by Rimmel. I don't really have much in Rimmel because I find it tends to be geared for people with very pale kind of skin tones that are a bit different from mine. But anyway, I'm going just for a bit of contour. I've just mixed that colour, which is similar to my top, my cardigan, and then that one together. And then just with hooded eyes, just add a little bit of a suggestion of a crease. And I often use the darker one, or even these two mixed together, as an eyeliner instead of using liquid eyeliner. When I've tried liquid eyeliner, it's just made a mess everywhere. It just tended to smudge and just ended up with panda eyes. What I kind of like about this colour is it actually brings out a bit of clarity into my eyes, which I can see in the cooler lighting from outside. So hopefully I'll remember and I'll bring the camera around. So what can happen with the camera though when I'm facing the window is that the lighting can be a little bit too bright, and then the colours just end up all washing out, so then I look paler than I actually am. So the more accurate colours do tend to be with this camera than the other one, I generally find. Now what I've done is I've pulled out also this palette here, which is Makona's palette by Peachier, and so we've got our ultramarine blue there. Now that ultramarine blue mixed very successfully, just a touch of it like that much with a tiny bit of this foundation to just neutralise the excess orange in it, when I wanted to, and it worked really well when I wanted to try that with the foundation. So foundations generally are made with iron oxides, which are sort of like a earthy yellow and an earthy red, generally mixed in like an orangey colour, which are kind of approximate human skin tones, but they don't really work very well for the nuance. And I'm just going to use a little bit of the, which one? I'm going to use that one. Sort of a shimmer, but not too far. So I tend to just use a tiny bit of eyeshadow when I wear it. You can just make everything look a little bit more finished. Blend it together. And mascara. I only have one mascara that is a brown. So this is a tube mascara by Natio. I used to just wear black mascara, but I'm finding that as my hair colour is softening with age, I have to look really hard to find any sort of start of grey hairs, but they kind of look a little bit silvery. But definitely I do think I think my colouring's generally always been a bit soft, but I do think that in some lighting my hair does look lighter and even kind of greyish, even though not grey yet. In other lightings it looks really dark. So usually just bothers the top lashes if I can be bothered, which is most of the time I don't bother. If I want to with my eyebrows, I usually just comb them, but I can if I want to add just a little bit of just this pen here. It's not black, but it's a dark brown. I don't know if it's actually working. And you just sort of add just a few extra hairs, just to kind of, or the illusion of extra hairs. Just see if it's actually working, if it's dried out by now. Oh yeah, still working. So this one's called Espresso, so it's the next one, Lift and Snatch. I think it's generally looks a lot better. I don't like the heavy brow look, I've never been into that. That is pretty much it, but I did pull out this this highlighter. And so this one is a Revlon Skin Lights Highlighter Twilight Gleam. I just thought I'd just put a tiny bit on. I don't generally like a very shiny face look, but just a tiny bit catching the light can look quite nice. Of course, if I was wearing, like say this, either of these colours, I would change the lip colour, so I would, you know, probably use a red lip colour, but you can maybe go for the browns or something for the eyeshadow. So that kind of looks my version of looking a little bit glowy. So as far as these were concerned, I did actually swatch them the other day, but the ones that were, there was a red one and there was a sort of bubblegum pink one. They were just way too cool on me and way too bright. So some people say, oh, don't swatch on your hand, swatch on your face. Swatching on your hand, well, for me, because my hand is not too dissimilar really to my face, but my face does tend to have, with your face, you can have a little bit more leaning pink or orange, because of the, you know, there's more capillary action generally with you know, your blood flow or whatever, but it's still overall it's quite muted on me. So but I can tell just when I'm swatching. So this is the Dawn one, it's still kind of muted, and then this is the Coral one, which essentially is a soft red really, because the closest with these swatches would be between, these are different types of reds, so reds can lean, this is more of a primary red, the pearl red, that's a cadmium red light, but when you add white, it's somewhere kind of a like you've lightened a primary red in a sense, whereas this one here leans a fraction more towards magenta. So if you wonder what magenta looks like, that's quinacridone magenta. So it's sort of a kind of violet kind of colour, and there's lots of them in betweens. And then of course you can mix them together. So once we blend them out and then we mix them together, it's still pretty soft, and I find that the softer blushes tend to just suit me more. Oh, I forgot to show facing the light. So facing artificial light in this corner, I can balance the light a lot better generally, but it's, if I go towards the window, which is currently more cooler light, everything will probably look a lot brighter. I just want to show the difference, how it can brighten like my eye colour and stuff, but it can also artificially make my skin tone and etc. look a bit lighter than it actually is. So it's very hard to kind of get something that is representative. Thanks.